Good afternoon and good evening. Thank you so much for joining us today for our program entitled HBCU Series, Building Wealth and Planning for Retirement. We are really excited to have a variety of speakers on the program tonight. Just a couple of reminders. We are recording this program, so it's being recorded, and then next week we will email out a copy of it to everyone who was registered. And we have folks muted. So if you have any questions, feel free to shoot them over in the chat box. We'll be monitoring that. And then at the end of the program, if there's not too many folks on, you're welcome to unmute and ask questions. So otherwise, we'll just go ahead and get started. So if we can move on to the next slide. You're going to be your facilitators for the program this evening. We have Warshay Downing, who is with Say Yes Guilford, and he'll talk in a little bit about Say Yes Guilford and his work on the MFN Bank Millennial Advisory Board. And we also have Dr. Marcus Howard, who works with Teach for America and is also a part of the MFN Bank Millennial Advisory Board. And we were set to have Miss Patty Harris join us tonight with Gear Up, North Carolina, but she was expecting and her sweet baby boy decided to come a little bit early. So she won't be with us tonight. And then my name is April Query. I'm the CFNC Regional and Community Services Manager. And so I work with outreach across the state of North Carolina. So we have a good group on tonight to answer all of your questions as we go through the program. So here is our agenda. I am going to kick us off by talking a little bit about CFNC and these programs, and then we're going to switch over to Marcus and Warshay, and they're going to talk a little bit about Say Yes Guilford and Teach for America, as well as MFN Bank. And then they're going to dig into some information on ways to invest after college, as well as building wealth. And some of that information is going to be understanding retirement accounts, investments, entrepreneurship, and some other good bits of information. And again, if you have any questions as we go through, feel free to shoot them over in the chat box, and we'll have some time for a more formal Q&A at the end. So I'm going to kick us off with talking about who is CFNC. So College Foundation North Carolina is a free service of the state, and our goal is to promote access to higher education. And if you've been on CFNC.org before, you'll see that at the top there's a plan, apply, and pay for college. And as your state-based nonprofit, our job is to just help students through the career process, the college admissions process. So that would include the application, that includes transcripts, residency, and then the financial aid and financial literacy piece, which is what brings us to tonight's information. You see a circle on the screen there with College Foundation North Carolina in the middle, and then you can see all these parts of the puzzle or parts of the pie that come together to create our free services. So we're really proud that North Carolina is the first state to have a resource like this. We've been around for over 20 years now, and we truly are a group working together that includes the community college system, DPI, the public colleges, the private independent colleges, and then College Foundation Incorporated and SCA to come together and create all of these resources for you. So if you haven't been on CFNC.org before, I encourage you to take a look. On the next slide, you will see a screenshot that shows you our new homepage. So like I said, if you haven't been in a while, take a look. We had a whole new website go live in the fall that we worked on for a few years. And you're going to find more information, better organized. And you also have access to a dashboard on CFNC.org now, where you can keep better track of your careers that you save in your profile, your colleges, your applications. You know, if you've stopped one and you need to pick it back up, same with sending your transcripts, and all of that information. And then you're also going to see that pay tab, which is important, that leads us to really tonight's topic. And that's where you're going to find the scholarship search tool to find scholarships in North Carolina to apply for. And there's also a good amount of financial literacy information in there. And so I would definitely take a look. You're not going to find all of the information, though, that Marcus and Warshay talk about this evening for this program. So they kind of will just complement each other. But definitely go take a look. Make sure you have your CFNC account for whatever resources you might need. All right, so this is where I'm going to pass it over to Marcus and Warshay. They are our main speakers this evening. And again, Warshay is with Say Yes Guilford and Marcus is with Teach for America, but they're both members of the MFN Bank Millennial Advisory Board. And so they're going to talk to you a little bit about their role with both of these and then dig into all this wonderful information that we have for you tonight. So thank you, and I will pass it over to you both.
All right, well, thank you, April, and thank you to CFNC and all of those who are watching this particular webinar. The MFN Bank Millennial Advisory Board, first of all, MFN Bank, and Mark is going to talk about this in more detail, but it is the nation's second oldest minority-serving or minority-owned bank in the country. And as a result, the Millennial Advisory Board came about 3 or 4 years ago. And the Millennial Advisory Board is comprised of individuals who were selected to serve as advisors to the senior leadership of the MFN Bank. And so the Millennial Advisory Board members collaborate to develop modernized ways to engage millennials and the next generation to influence and support the initiatives and the mission of the bank. So that is what the Millennial Advisory Board is all about. And you can check us out at mfbankonline.com. You'd also have, I'm from Say Yes Guilford, so I'm the Senior Director of Data and Post-Secondary Success for Say Yes Guilford. And Say Yes Guilford's mission is to provide support services and scholarships designed to provide students with success careers and their opportunities after high school. So glad to be here this evening, and Marcus is going to introduce himself as well.
Hey, how you doing, everybody? My name is Marcus Howard, and I currently, as Warshay has said, I am on MFN Bank's Millennial Advisory Board, working with the bank to ensure that millennials, that they have support of millennials in the North Carolina area. I am also a representative of Teach for America. I currently work with the organization. It is an organization focused on ending education inequity by preparing and empowering leaders to lead in classrooms and in the community. And so with Teach for America, I'm currently the Director of Strategic Innovation, where I actually work on a team that builds new technology for students furthest away from opportunity. And so really excited to be here and really excited to talk to you all about building wealth and creating multiple streams of income. And so, as Warshay has said, we're representing, we're mutually representing an organization or a bank, a local community bank called MFN Bank. And so MFN Bank was actually created in 1907. So it's really amazing that this organization has stood the test of time since 1907. And actually it had its best year, its best performance year last year in the history of the bank. And so Mechanics and Farmers Bank was born for the need, obviously the opportunity at the turn of the 20th century where African-Americans were ending a period of history and going into a new period of history. And they were navigating tremendous obstacles in the fight to participate in the new economy. And so for African-Americans, there were few opportunities to obtain financing for their businesses and ventures at home. And so they created their own bank, a state chartered bank, Mechanics and Farmers. And so it's remained true to its commitment of promoting personal and community development. And so specifically while we're here, we've been working with the bank, Warshay and I have been working with the bank in addition to a lot of our millennial board members to ensure that the bank transforms into a financial institution that prepares our community members, specifically those community members of color who don't necessarily have access to financial literacy and financial resources to be able to thrive in the next wave of the 21st century. And so currently MFN Bank focuses on financial literacy, where they provide information on funding for college, improving your credit score, saving for retirement, which we'll talk about today, in a plethora of financial literacy topics that is most relevant to people like us at our age, transitioning from college to the workforce, or those who just recently entered the workforce. So it has a lot of resources for that demographic in ensuring that we are financially healthy. And so one extraordinary thing that we were able to accomplish as the Millennial Advisory Board was that we were able to work with the organization to create a new account a new checking account, which is an interest-bearing checking account with no monthly maintenance fees. And it's called the Dash checking account. And so we went on a community listening tour where we listened to the community members who were younger, who were millennials and Gen Zs and even younger, to understand what is it that those demographic need in order to be successful and to participate or partner with a bank. And so we synthesized that information, we collected that information, we took it to the CEO of the bank, and we worked together to create a checking account that worked for us, for people of color, in a certain age demographic. And so we were really excited to make sure that MFN Bank was transforming into a bank that was a modern institution and serving modern needs. And so I was really excited. And so I would urge you all to check out the new Dash checking account and check out some of the benefits that it offers for you all.
All right, thank you, Marcus. So now we're going to get started with the overall presentation, the history and importance of building wealth. And wealth is the process of generating long-term income through multiple sources of income. And to highlight this, wealth is more than just, a job-based income. Instead, it includes a combination of savings, investments, and any income generating assets, okay? So it's very important to also realize that all wealth does not look the same. On your screen right now, you see a mosaic of multi-billionaires, some who have just become billionaires, such as, you have Tyler Perry up here. You have Jeff Bezos, Bill Gates. You have Kim and Kanye West. You have Alice Walton from Walmart, Oprah Winfrey, Elon Musk, and you have Jay Chandra. These are all billionaires, but all wealth does not look the same. Wealth building is different and it is unique for every individual, every person. So throughout this presentation, Marcus and I are going to share about the interwoven aspects of how wealth is built, not just in savings, not just in the stock market, not just in real estate, but it's multiple streams of income. And we think you'll like what we have to share with you. So ways to prepare to invest after college. It is our assumption that many of you who are watching this or tuning in, you are preparing, you are gearing up to start investing after college. The key thing is to not procrastinate. It is so easy to say, I'm too young to get started. I'm too young to start investing in the stock market or to put away a certain percentage of my, money into my 401k account or IRA. The key is to don't procrastinate, get started. You can start with whatever you have. You're never too young, you're never too old. And then begin to read or listen to an audiobook or personal finances or money management. That is going to be very important to start listening to those things that you can begin to learn more about, such as, you have books such as Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki, right? You have Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. You also have books by Dave Ramsey, other financial experts, or Audible books that you can begin to listen to on your daily commute or even on your jog to kind of get you in that paradigm to learn about finances and how to actually become financially fit, so to speak. Learn about options you have at your job. So for example, even before you get hired or you start that particular job, look at if your job, if that position has a 401k. A 401k is simply an employer-sponsored pension account. And this funding comes directly off your paycheck and it can be matched by your employer. So later on, we're going to talk about how some employers may do a 3% match or 5% match based upon what you put in. There's also a 403b retirement savings account that's available for many public organizations. In fact, my first retirement account was actually a 403b through the university. And then you also have stock options. Let's say you work for a place like Walgreens, right? Or any other organization that may offer stock options. Take that and that's a good advantage for you. The other component here is as you prepare to invest after college, create a budget. It is so essential to create a budget because I cannot tell you, you never know where your money is going until you take the time to create a budget. There are apps, I use this called Mint. It is through your Android store, or I think it's called Google Play Store now, or your Apple Store. And it's called Mint. Mint.com is through Intuit. And I actually use it to bring in all of my bank accounts and brokerage accounts into one, so I can see my net worth, but I can also manage my budget. I also manage what I'm spending on a daily basis. Then lastly, steer clear of unnecessary debt. Focus on reducing your debt load as quickly as possible. When you are first starting, you're graduating from college, and let's say you're starting your first job, you don't want to get the most expensive apartment right after graduating from college and starting your new job. You don't want to get the most expensive car either. But it's very important to learn your budget and adjust to the new flows of life. So building wealth after college. And Marcus, I think this is yours.
Yeah, and so building wealth after college is sometimes a long-term process, and investments do more for you in the long term than simply saving. And so we just want to get you in the mind frame of thinking about more than just putting your money in the bank and saving it. There are alternate ways for your money to make money. And so what we advise or suggest when you first come out of college, or actually any point in time in your life, is to consult a financial advisor or a financial planner. And MFN Bank also has that as well, specifically. And I think what's good about MFN Bank is they understand the plight and the experiences of African Americans and people of color as they transition from college to the workforce, and those early in the workforce. And so it's really important that you all check out MFN Bank's wealth management option or services to really check that out. And also start thinking about an emergency fund. And so an emergency fund is very important because there are things that happen in your life that you can't foresee. And it's very important that, maybe not so much when you're by yourself, but when you begin to build a family and you begin to, and you're responsible for other people and your family, it's going to be very important that that you do have an emergency fund where you have maybe 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses saved up. So if you lose a job, if your car breaks down, if somebody becomes ill, if you become ill, or something happens that you don't foresee, you have a cushion to be able to, to really alleviate some of the challenges that might come about. So we really suggest that, one, you start looking at a financial advisor or financial planner, but you also begin to think about how much your monthly living expenses are. And I'll just say this last thing, as far as an emergency fund, living expenses, think about how much rent is, how much your car note is, how much your car insurance is, how much groceries are, how much you pay for food, how much your utilities are, and save up all of those things for 3 to 6 months so that you have that as a backup plan. So really think about all the expenses that you have for living and make sure you add those up, multiply that by 3 or 6 per month, and really have something saved up for emergencies.
That's good. And piggybacking off what Marcus said about emergency fund, you can use the Dash checking account by MFN Bank to save those 3 to 6 months worth of living expenses. You also have, when you're thinking about investments, you also have online brokerage firms such as, we all know about Robinhood, right? Or Webull. But there is a plethora of investment, what we call brokerage firms, that you can use. And it is as easy as getting started today. Now, there are dividend producing stocks such as General Electric, GE, been around for a long time. You have Coca-Cola, Verizon, Nike, so on and so forth. So dividend stocks are basically, it's a distribution of some of the company's earnings to a class of its shareholders. For example, for every share of Nike that you own, there's an approximate $1.10 each dividend they pay every year. Same with Coca-Cola. There's $1.68 dividend they pay you each year for holding just one share of Coca-Cola. And it's also invested that you reinvest. It's called DRIP, Dividend Reinvestment Program, to reinvest those dividends, because if you invest over the long term, you're going to see a significant return as well. Thinking about dividends, there are dividend aristocrats. These are members of the S&P 500, basically the market, and they have increased their dividends for at least the past 25 consecutive years. Think Target, Walgreens, VF Corp, one of my favorite companies that's local in North Carolina. Then you also have Dividend Kings. They are the S&P 500 companies. They have increased their dividends for over the past 50 consecutive years. Think about the Dividend Kings, think Coca-Cola again, Lowe's, right? These are amazing. So these are amazing reward consistencies. And you really want to think about, how can I invest in something that can give me growth, but also that can pay me over the long run? If there's a particular brand that you like, consider investing in it. For example, if you like Jordans, right? Consider becoming a shareholder of Nike. I think on the screen, there we go. I pulled this today on your screen. 1 year ago today, April 27th, 2020, the Nike stock was like around $80. Since then, the past year, it has grown to over 49% in 1 year, okay? Just imagine if you had the opportunity to invest last year, where your portfolio would be right now. Now, let's think about this some more. The number one reason why people are fearful of the market is not only because of procrastination, but because you always hear, it's crashing, right? But I want to tell you, the stock market rebounds 100% of the time. And here's an example. The S&P 500 shows a 5 and 10 year return. On average, you have about a 8 to 10% return on the stock market. But the key is to diversify your investments. So between 1990 and today, you see their ups and downs over this 30-year period, but they have averaged out to a positive return. So you see, it is a slow and steady race that allows you to win. Let's take this a step further. Building wealth after college investments again. Think about this. If you had the opportunity to invest in Tesla in June of 2010, when it was only $3.80, today the stock of one share of Tesla is $730. In 11 years, that would have rendered you $4.8 million. Amazon, $1.54 in July of 1997. Had you had the opportunity to buy at least 16,000 shares or even 5 shares, you would have a significant growth in your portfolio. Let's look at Bitcoin, because Bitcoin cryptocurrency is very popular. Just 11 years ago, Bitcoin was at 8 cents. Today, I look at my portfolio, Bitcoin is like at $55,000 or on average 62,000. Had you had the opportunity to invest 11 years ago, you would have $19 billion. So look at this. If you are, for example, we all have, well, not all of us, but we may have Apple devices or phones. If you like something a lot, why not consider becoming a shareholder in the company? You can own the product itself, but you can also become a shareholder. And so the question mark here is, what stock, what company are you thinking about? What company will yield you some good returns? So invest in things that you know, like, and love. Investing in the market, there are many types of funds you can invest in. You have the index funds, you have the mutual funds, and you have the exchange traded funds. I won't belabor the fact of what they are, but I will tell you the most common for retail investors like us or individuals would be the exchange traded funds. You can look at funds like VTI. They are protected. They have it's a smorgasbord of various companies, a basket of companies that you can invest in. You have cryptocurrency, high risk. It's very high risk, right? You have Bitcoin, Ethereum. The new thing is Dogecoin, whatever it's called. But I would just caution you, and I want to say that we're not financial advisors, but we know what we're talking about, right? So it's important to have a balanced portfolio. 100% of your assets should not be cryptocurrency. 100% of your assets should not be stocks or real estate. You want to diversify. There are individuals that know about Forex. I know nothing about Forex. I could learn, but we just put it on the list so you can see there are options. You have real estate, you have land ownership, and you have insurance policies such as term life versus whole life insurance. What we recommend is that you consult with your financial advisor before you just jump into any of these. And Marcus, is there something you want to add to this particular slide as well?
I think you explained everything pretty well.
Okay. And thinking about retirement, the key to having wealth is consistency. You got to have consistency. You just can't decide, I'm going to put, $50 in 1 year and then hope it grows to $1 million. No, it's slow and steady. You have to consistently put in to expect a return. You have what we call traditional IRAs, is a type of individual retirement account in which you make pre-tax contributions and the investments in the account grow tax deferred, okay? Then you have the Roth IRA. It is an individual retirement account in which money grows tax-free, and when you withdraw it during your retirement is also tax-free, okay? So and also I want to add here is if, let's say you have a 401k right now and you leave your job where you are now, it is very important to roll that money over. Don't leave any money hanging out there in the ethers with your previous company. Roll that money over, get your financial advisor and roll it over. You can consult with MFN Bank Wealth Management team as well. And lastly, on this particular issue, see if your employers offer a financial retirement model. Again, we talked about this earlier, the 401k, 403b. I cannot tell you how many people may teeter on the side of, I'm not going to invest in my 401k or 403b. Well, that's your choice. But you will be surprised at just taking $50 a month or $50 every paycheck. Because if you don't see it, it don't matter, right? You don't miss what you don't see. And so what you do, you take a few of those dollars, and over time, it builds. A year or two pass away. You begin to see, wait, I have $2,000, $3,000, $10,000, $20,000 in retirement at your particular age. So take advantage of any contribution limits. My financial advisor always suggests to me, make sure you match. So if your company does a 3% match or a 5% match, hey, in my case, I do X percent of what my company matches, so that at the end of the year, I know I'm going to get my return, my 5% match automatically from the company. Then we mentioned this earlier, stock options in your company or organization. If your company offers profit sharing or stock options, take advantage of that. Because ultimately your objective is going to be, how can I live on a budget? How can I get uncomfortable with where I am now, so that later on I can be comfortable in living like a king or a queen, right? So lastly, that's all I want to share about retirement. Of course, there's more that we can talk about. That's why we have time for Q&A. But Marcus has some phenomenal other wealth building to share with you right now as well.
So wealth building, one of the most exciting topics that I'm very interested in, and I'm very fascinated in, is building wealth through entrepreneurship. One of the top ways to build wealth is to start a business. And just as you see on the slides, just the definition of an entrepreneur. Entrepreneur is a person who comes up with the business ideas and takes risk in order to get businesses up and running and to make profit out of it. This is a person who has a vision and sees an opportunity in the marketplace. And so you can see some of the people on this particular slide are entrepreneurs. They built wealth. Are people of color who built wealth through amazing ideas, whether it's a clothing company, whether it's a pharmacy, or whether it is a technology idea. And so there are three, we're going to talk about three businesses that you all can start at any point in time in your life. And I think it's really important to understand that is to start a business doesn't necessarily take a lot of money. In some instances, it doesn't take any money. But we're just going to go through the 3 types of businesses that you all can start. The first one is a small business, where small business is defined as a privately owned corporation, partnership, or sole proprietorship that has fewer employees and less annual revenue than a corporation or regular sized business. And so some examples is even you would consider Uber or Lyft, since you are a independent contractor, you are an entrepreneur when you choose to drive for Uber or Lyft. If you have special talents or special services that you are able to provide or skills, one is tax preparation. That is another small business that's pretty popular. Business consulting, that's something that me and Warshay and other people on the Millennial Advisory Board participate in. Once you have a particular skill in business and you realize that other businesses also need that skill or also need your services, you're able to contract out those services and become a business consultant. Website designer or software engineer, that's pretty popular right now, as a lot of scalable things happen around business and technology. You can go back real quick, Rashay. Tutoring, catering, real estate brokering, and even starting a food truck. So these are all businesses, small businesses that some don't cost anything, such as ride sharing, tax preparation, or business consulting, tutoring. Some do require some type of startup capital. Food truck might require some startup capital. Real estate brokering, you might have to pay for certifications, and even catering, you have to pay for utensils. But these are all things that can be started with just saving a little money to get started. The next type of entrepreneurship is called scalable technology business. And so basically a scalable technology business is basically a business that's facilitated through technology that can be scaled all over the world very easily. And so the most common is software, but you also have, podcasts, YouTube, social media. Those are ways where you can monetize something that you do well, and also scale it without having to hire a lot of employees or having a lot of startup capital, online courses, or digital music and art, or other things that you're able to scale through technology. And so these are some of the things that you often see, such as software and music, where and maybe even YouTube and podcasts, where you become very wealthy. And so if you think of some of the most wealthy people in the world, they have started or they have created scalable technology business. If we think about, Elon Musk with Tesla and the technology behind the Tesla car. You think about Bill Gates, technology with Microsoft, and you think about some of the other, Jeff Bezos, the technology behind Amazon. A lot of wealthy people start scalable technology businesses. And then another form of entrepreneurship is starting a nonprofit organization. And so basically, you define a nonprofit organization as a legal entity organized and operated for collective public and social benefit. And so the nonprofit is a little different, as with the nonprofit, you're actually raising money to provide a service. And so you generate money through fundraising. So it's a different type of game, but it is something that's very common right now, especially with something called social entrepreneurship, where a lot of people who come from low-income communities, communities of color, who see some of the issues that are happening in their community, they're starting nonprofit organizations and raising a lot of money to alleviate some of the social issues in their community. And so this is another way to build wealth, and also with added social benefit. And so that's really exciting as well. And so, and like I said, there are ways to fund entrepreneurship. And so the first one, obviously, save your money, through a few years, depending on your income level. It takes to just save a little money and then invest it in an idea or put it in a business, right? There are also options through loans, small business loans from the federal government, in the form of SBA loans, personal loans from the bank, or business loans from the bank. There's also fellowships. that you can join that will not only give you money, but will also give you skill building and a community of people who are also wanting to start businesses. And so these fellowships are extraordinary opportunities that are usually a year long, where even if you have a nonprofit or a for-profit organization, doesn't really matter. You can apply, and if you get in, it's a really great opportunity to be around experts, to get funding, and to, again, be part of a community of people who are trying to change the world. And then there's something called venture capital investments, where you have people who have a lot of money who are looking to invest in ideas in a particular sector. And so they also have opportunities to apply to some of those venture capital opportunities, where if you have an idea, you can pitch it to venture capitalists and they will fund your idea. And then there's family and friends. I mean, I don't know how many of you, I necessarily didn't grow up in a community where I could ask family and friends for tens of thousands of dollars to start a business. But that is also an option, to go into friends and family to ask for investments. And so, again, there are ways. Entrepreneurship is something that definitely builds wealth. And some of the top people in the world who are wealthy have started businesses. And so these are some of the ways to be able to fund your ideas that you want to start in the community. And so I will leave you all with one question, which is, what do the wealthiest individuals around the world have in common? Think about some of the wealthy people in the world. What do they all have in common? They started a business.
It's true. All right. Thank you, Marcus. I think we have a few questions. Are there any questions in regard to what we just talked about?